From the Western Mass News Studios in Springfield, this is Western Mass News Getting Answers with Dave Mattson.
Thanks for joining me for this week's edition of Western Mass News Getting Answers. Each and every week, I'm joined by political and business leaders and other newsmakers to talk about the issues that impact you. And this week, we're getting answers from Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. She was recently elected to a third term as mayor on November 2nd, this time to a 4-year term. Nicole LaChapelle was first elected Easthampton mayor in 2017. Through her leadership, Easthampton has received a record amount in grants and investments in the city's roads, open space, housing, business community, and transportation, among others. During her tenure, she's overseen milestone projects like the new Mountain View K-8 school, the River Valley Co-op, and One Ferry Street. And she has guided the city and its residents with a steady hand to weather the crisis of COVID-19. Time permitting, we're going to focus on the state of Easthampton after COVID-19. We'll also talk about the schools and redevelopment and police-community relations. Nicole LaChapelle, good to see you.
Good morning, Dave. Wonderful to be here.
Congratulations on your re-election.
Thank you very much. It's an honor. I'm really excited about the next 4 years.
We talk about road projects as we tape on Friday morning. They're paving Main Street this morning.
They are paving Main Street. It's a little bit of a slalom course right now, but the crews are working double time to get it done before deeper frost.
Before the plows come, too.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about how Easthampton is rebounding from COVID-19 and the pandemic. I know cases were up slightly in the last state report. How are things now?
Things are, our cases are still going up a little bit. I mean, we're not seeing what we saw a year ago, which is wonderful. But the cases now are like insidious in a new way. They're breakthrough cases. It's hard to track down where they're coming from. We're really encouraging people, if they are exposed, tested positive, when those contact tracers call, please pick up the phone, please call them back, because we're really trying to figure out the tracking of breakthrough cases in Easthampton and really up and down the valley.
Sure, I mean, we're going to see an uptick statewide to begin with.
We are.
It's that time of year now. I know the mask mandate remains in effect. Do you see it lifted anytime soon?
Not in Easthampton.
No.
No, we are. I mean, if we had more information, if I had more surety of where or how breakthrough cases can occur, how new cases occur. I mean, we're seeing stuff where kids and older adults who have gotten, vaccinations, the younger ones just the first shot, and they're coming up positive. In good conscience, I can't go to the Board of Health and ask them to reconsider the mask mandate. I think we need to keep vigilant. It's not a sexy or fun thing to keep a mask mandate up, but we're talking still, it's public health. These are lives at stake.
You think to last winter too. I mean, granted, the kids weren't in school, but the fact that people were wearing masks and it kept flu cases down too. So there's a double benefit to all this.
Absolutely.
Now, I mentioned that masks are still being worn by students in schools. Do you foresee a vaccination mandate for students?
At this point, not on a local level. Easthampton Public Schools, like any public school system in the Commonwealth, don't have students just from the city, right? And there's all sorts of variations of why. And to have a local mandate around vaccines, I don't see really what it would do. Especially, again, I'm just going to go through the breakthrough cases. And while they're small, it just takes one of those cases to get somebody who is immunocompromised very, very sick.
Yeah, it doesn't take long for sure. And I know you're deeply concerned about the deeper effects of COVID-19. How's the city dealing with that issue?
Well, we're keeping our eyes and ears open. We're following up with folks who reported positive cases. We're checking in if they're older. Our Council on Aging is doing an amazing job following up over and over again. The alarming thing is when we're seeing long-term COVID cases, it's folks between the ages of 25 and 35. And they're, midstream in their life. And we're really paying attention to what their health needs will be. And the neurological fallout from long-term COVID is a very difficult thing in Western Mass to deal with because our neuropsychology resources here are not robust.
Yeah.
So, we've got great doctors, but the follow-up, it's pretty tough.
I know to that end, you're really now examining public health as a part of public safety in Easthampton.
Yes, very much so. It makes sense It's always made sense. We've always known the connection. We've always known, prevention and wellness and whatnot. But there's a step up, I think, now that COVID has exposed, where public health is proactive, but also can react in the moment. We saw that over COVID. So I'm expanding the public health department. We've now got a director. We're adding a social worker. We're adding a full-time public nurse. We've added food inspectors, and really see the Department of Public Health as the hub of our response, not only to COVID, but also to the racial reckoning we're all looking at, and how long-term we can, work towards something more equitable and inclusionary.
I know with COVID, a lot of people are concerned because there are just so many unknowns with it. That the fact that there could be very long-term effects with this. Yeah. And as you mentioned, people over the age of 20. I know the latest state report, and I know in Springfield they're having that issue, the biggest uptick in cases is between 20 and 40. Yeah,
no, absolutely. And then, to consider what's going to happen on the behavioral health side, on the mental health side, the exacerbation of folks who are already in treatment or needed treatment on that continuum, it's just gone deeper. And then there are folks who, how do you know how you're going to react from a pandemic where you are basically in lockdown in your home for a year and are still you're walking out with still a mask? It's brought forward a lot of holes in our safety net for folks. The numbers are overwhelming, but also we need to approach this as, a more common and okay, non-stigmatizing set of conditions, but also treat it that way too.
I think a lot of people are looking at this thinking, down the line as we deal with this, COVID's always going to be here. Yeah. That we're going to have to deal with it like we deal with the flu or any other health issue that we're dealing with.
Absolutely. And we're already starting to ramp up, like with the flu clinics. I think you're going to see, certainly in Easthampton, but other towns, rapid tests, we're going to start kicking those up. Any booster shots, flu shots, we're really on the offense to get out there doing community pop-ups, working with Northampton, to get really shots in arms, but also check-ins and seeing how people are doing a lot more public health community events on Zoom and in person outside.
The other part of this too is the business element, but I know you're working very closely with the Chamber to help get businesses back on track.
Yeah, we just had, actually yesterday, we had a really exciting Blueprint Easthampton is an initiative I actually started before the pandemic, and it was going to be a slow roll, very thoughtful. We're doing a lot of feasibility studies on innovation that was happening in Easthampton and around Easthampton that was more on the informal basis, and how to help those innovators come into a formal economy and become employee-based businesses, as well as create equity, generate wealth for the next generation. COVID, we went 0 to 90 on that. Blueprint Easthampton, we started a micro business program to help folks get into the formal economy, got them capital. Yesterday, we had our Blueprint Easthampton resource meeting with partners around Western Mass about what they're doing, what we can do, how we can work together, and really focusing on these small businesses and also taking down a lot of barriers, around business permits and paying for those permits for people. Really exciting announcement, asking everyone to save the date for December 7th at 11 a.m. I think it'll be in our Mill District, where the Massachusetts LGBT Chamber of Commerce, as well as BECMA, the Black Enterprise Chamber of Commerce, will be announcing their Western Mass presence and deep dive to support those types of businesses in Western Mass with the city of Easthampton and Blueprint Easthampton. We anticipate a great crowd and safely in a big mill with lots of air, but this is the first time where you're seeing very active partnership between a smaller town and statewide agencies that really can lend purpose and action to Western Mass.
I like the sound of someone who's grown up in Easthampton South, the sound of the Mill District.
Yeah.
That, you look at that area growing up here, those were pretty rundown buildings, and now it's one of the more vibrant parts of town. We're going to talk more about that when we come back, but we're also going to talk about schools and redevelopment in Easthampton, so stay with us. Welcome back to Western Mass News Getting Answers. My guest this week is Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. When it comes to schools, Easthampton High School is really only a few years old, and you're going to soon open the new elementary and middle school. Easthampton's positioned very well for the future, it sounds like.
We are. I mean, our kids always deserve, the very top notch, not only instruction, what they've had for many years, but also top notch buildings. And the decision that the city made in May of 2018, overwhelmingly, to bond for that $109 million pre-K-8 school on a beautiful campus, the old middle school campus, just cutting edge, not only technology and learning spaces, but the design fits right in with that campus looking at Mount Tom. So every student in Easthampton Public Schools will be learning as of next year in a building less than 10 years old. And we're very, very proud of that. I mean, we anticipate the new school to be like the high school, which is a community center.
Sure. I mean, they're both beautiful pieces of property. Having gone to the old high school, looking at that new one, it's like, boy, if only I had that, maybe I would have taken more interest in high school.
Could be. We're hoping not. We're hoping.
It really, it's fun, and there's so many good things. All right, so when that school opens, where's that right now as far as the schedule is concerned?
We're hoping to transition the middle school students, which are in the older building on the same campus as the new school, into the new school after the first of the year. And then looking just like putting the finishing touches on elementary school. We'll maybe do some visits in late spring, but you'll see the elementary students full-time in the new school in the fall. In the fall.
So I know a lot of people are asking, where does that leave Maple Center and the Pepin schools that school's going to replace?
Yeah, so we started about a year and a half ago looking at the possibilities of what could happen, not just in those three schools, all over 100 years old, but in our downtown quarter, because the schools bookend our downtown quarter. We did a downtown strategic plan that was, hundreds of residents chimed in, participated in, obviously pre-COVID. Of what they'd like to see. And then we took all of that information along with our arts visioning project and started crunching the numbers and bringing in consultants and say, okay, what's the market going to be like? Or what are the long-term needs of Easthampton? Surprisingly, COVID comes, we start re-crunching the numbers, and there wasn't a lot of change. It came up to housing. Yeah. That's the number one need in the downtown area and the city overall. So we've pulled together a group of community members who are taking a look at fresh data with a consultant. We're getting ready for some community forums about this is what the city looks like now, this is what the use is. We'd like to hit the market with those schools with an RFP, a request for proposals, late June this year. The schools won't be surplus, but we'll start getting the word out. We're doing a lot of pre-development work. We want to have the best market timing as we can and leave a lot of flexibility for innovative ideas that the community wants to see. So hopefully we'll attract some developers to follow the community's wants.
Sort of like the old Parsons Street School in many ways.
Yeah, we're taking a little different approach with the request for proposals and putting a lot of different options for developers, giving points for energy efficiency, public use and access, ADA accessible apartments, affordable housing. We really want a plethora of proposals, so we can say flexible, look at our long-term plans and get the best for the citizens of Easthampton.
Yeah, you talk about public input too. The fact is that so many people still in town went to those schools.
Yeah.
So they all have a stake in it.
They do. We learned that with Maple Street and giving people an opportunity to really connect with the Maple Street School in particular and get ready for the transition to whatever's next.
So we talked about this, but really the Easthampton really leading the way when it comes to the redevelopment of these old buildings. City Space is one, just a beautiful piece of property now, but One Ferry Street too. Let's talk about the latest on that. And that's really just one major example of what's going on.
Yeah, when I got elected in 2017, I said that my two objectives were to make sure the school question passed and build a great school and redevelop One Ferry Street. So that all started and was well underway by the end of my first 2-year term. So a couple of folks in the community suggested, well, I've achieved my objective, so I don't have to run again. But of course, as you and I know, those are very involved projects, so I'm going to stick with it. But One Ferry Street was really a lot of determination by people in town who really were stakeholders in Easthampton for a long time, but also folks who had been there more recently. Our developer for that site, Mike Michon, had already done a mill over, Mill 180. He knew the building conditions and he knew the site well. So he was a great partner and was able, we were able to go to the state and really make a strong case and get a tremendous amount of money to start that work. And the public improvements in that area, especially the roundabout with the commercial district that's attached, has been a great improvement already. One building is totally filled, it's done. The developer is saying the second building is going to be done by this July, and there'll be condominiums and some apartments, underground parking, and a dog washing station. Yes.
Interesting.
So I was over there yesterday and I saw the piece in the building they're working on, and there will be a dog washing station. So you can have it all on Ferry Street.
Pretty much. Well, the other part of that too is you look at Cottage Street. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
It was deemed a cultural district.
Yes.
And I know wasn't there some talk about doing the same thing on Pleasant Street in the Mill District too, somewhere down the line?
Yeah, there was. I mean, we talked about that. We still talk about that. We're looking to do some Mill District visioning. The Mill owners in Easthampton are working together and collaborating on what can happen in that area. I mean, we're talking about $100 million that can be leveraged of private funds with public money to re-envision that neighborhood, including the Pleasant Green neighborhood, but also across the pond, New City. And tomorrow we're doing a walking workshop in New City to see what the residents want and need. The infrastructure is still very poor, but the mill owners are right in there. Helping and looking at that whole section of Easthampton. I
know a lot of people kind of anxious when they saw that Manchester Hardware was on the block, and it's been sold, and there's going to be some development there too. Really a major player.
Yeah, I mean, Center for Human Development, and their leader, Jim Goodwin, came in, bought the property with an eye towards doing something very community focused. I have been working all of the time I've been mayor to get more behavioral and medical health services into the center of Easthampton. I think that's what we are as a community. What happens in our downtown is not only food and retail, but it's professional services, it's Family Dollar, it's mental health services, somewhere to get your sport physical, for the year. And for CHD to become a partner on that property is great. We did put a request for proposals out to lease space for a new council on aging. The bid was awarded to the Center for Human Development, and we're negotiating the lease, and then we have to go back out for a design and construction RFP. But, if we could upgrade a council on aging and still be in the middle of town, it's a fantastic catch for Easthampton, and our seniors, they deserve top-notch location, but also the post office has served its value for our seniors. That's where the current council on aging is, and it's time to go to the next level.
And that also works with your public health, public safety.
Absolutely.
Model.
It's right there. I mean, it's cross my finger. It's a very long procurement process, but I feel good.
Yeah, nothing in government is quick, is it?
No. No. That's the big takeaway.
All right, let's take another break. When we come back, Mayor Nicole LaChapelle and I talk about police-community relations. Welcome back to Western Mass News Getting Answers. I'm pleased to be joined this week by Easthampton Mayor Nicole LaChapelle. Let's talk about the Easthampton Community Relations Committee. I know that's another one of your priorities.
Yeah. So we started that work with the Department of Justice before COVID. After the Department of Justice doing work up at our high school, I really looked at that report and realized that, sure, while there were some very unsavory, and I think that's a light word to describe the high school community relations culture. It's not just a school. It's a community, and asked the Department of Justice to come back in to do a city-based site intervention, which happened sometime before the pandemic. A report came out that was facilitated by the Department of Justice, but was all community member words. It was confidential, what was said in the intervention based on civil rights law. And then from there, put together an ordinance with the police chief to create the Community Relations Committee. Very purposely did that within the structure of the government, and not just as an executive order, so it can be a tool for the public going forward as, you know, the will of the people choose. The committee really got, as all of us in government, really again had to speed up with the racial reckoning that came with the murder of George Floyd, but as we all know, was going on, you know, off the center of the media for decades, if not generations. And the committee, it's been some rough work. I took the mayor's pledge on June 3rd with my brother's keeper, brought in a facilitator to work through the pledge, look at use of force. That report was given to the city council for additional comment. And now we're starting to put together what that will look like, the committee, what a budget will look like. But I've maintained and continue to maintain a separate department to address these very important issues isn't the way to go. Yeah. There's not one department that fixes all the other departments. And if you know municipalities, it's very hard to unsilo departments. We need to embed those job positions, but also those skills, the training, the outreach into every single department. And it's great to see having clinical support options, having their clinicians working with their police. We're looking to expand that. And also we have some really exciting news about some opt-in programs that we're doing around community safety and interaction with the police that'll come in the next couple of days.
And a part of that, you're talking about really building upon the public trust with the police department.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I don't see community trust building via one department, via a small group of people. We could build a department, or we could completely rebuild our data collection system, not only for the police department, the fire department, for dispatch, and for the city. Yeah. And I'm going to invest those dollars. I mean, it'll be short of $500,000 in the next year, where we'll redo our data collection service and being able to disaggregate and really follow patterns and habits of all of our public safety employees.
We're running out of time. I mean, this is absolutely flown by. Let quickly talk about the cannabis impact fees. Where's that money being used? And I know it's being used to put to good use. Let's put it that way. It is. So we're using that in planning, our planning department, our Department of Public Works department, our legal department, police and fire, to really take care of one-time items that bolster the structure of those departments. They were really impacted over the last 5 years. Yeah. A lot of hours and time with the cannabis industry, but you're seeing education programs at our library. We're adding conservation agents to the planning department. We're redoing streets near the dispensaries that are really getting beat up with all the traffic. Sure. Police training. It's been a boon. All right, we are out of time. Quickly, can you, in 10 seconds, can we talk about the 21 Mayor Toy Fund? It's starting. It started. Sign up on the website. Give my office a call, 413-529-1470. It's the delight of the year. Love working with the community center on it. Please give us a call. Everybody should have toys. All right. Nicole LaChapelle, thank you so much. That does it for us. Have a great weekend. We'll see you back here next week.